Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joyofbaking.com. Today we're going to make black bottom cupcakes, and this is what they look like. It's a very unique looking cupcake. The outside shell is a chocolate cake, and yet inside we have a delicious cream cheese filling. So the first thing that you will need to do is preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius, and then you will need a 12-cup muffin pan. Now, I'm just lining my muffin cups with paper liners. If you don't want to do that, you could just butter them, or you could even spray them with one of those non-stick sprays. We're going to start by making our cream cheese filling. So to make it, if you have a stand mixer like I have here, use your paddle attachment. You could use a hand mixer for this. You could even use your food processor. So you got some choices. The first thing that you will need is 8 ounces, which is 225 grams of cream cheese. That's like regular full fat cream cheese. Have it at room temperature. So put that in there. And I'm just going to beat this medium-low speed. We don't want to incorporate a lot of air into this filling, so keep your mixer on low speed. I'm just going to beat it just until it's nice and creamy and smooth. Okay. Now when you're doing this, you will have to stop your mixer a few times. Cream cheese is very sticky. So you have to stop, scrape, beat a little more. A little tedious, but it's what we have to do. So now I'm going to add all the rest of the ingredients. You will need 1/3 cup, 65 grams of granulated white sugar. And then 1 large egg. Have your egg at room temperature. A large egg is 50 grams out of the shell. And then I also like to add a little flavoring. Cream cheese filling to me needs a little vanilla. So 1/2 teaspoon, 2 grams of pure vanilla extract. If you don't want vanilla flavor, just leave that out. Now I'm just going to beat this, again, medium-low speed, until everything's just mixed together. Okay, that looks good. You know, a few lumps in it is fine, but you want it fairly smooth. Now, the important thing, as I said, you want to have your mixer on like low speed, because we don't want to get too much air into this filling, and then that will like thin it out. And if it's too thin, what will happen is we're going to do our chocolate cupcake, and then you put the cream cheese filling in the center. If you really mixed it, over-mixed it, this will be thin, and then it tends to sink too much into your batter. I mean, it's still going to taste good, but you won't get that real contrast of that, you know, the cream cheese filling and then the chocolate cupcake. And be especially careful if you're using your food processor, because you know what? You tend to turn that on and whiz it away, and, you know, you can over-mix it. So you can see this is fairly thick. So I'm putting it in this bowl so you can see. If you're at home, you don't need to transfer it to a clean bowl. But so you can see it's pretty thick. So that's what you're looking for. Okay, so I'm just going to clean this up, and when we come back, we will start our chocolate cake. So now for the chocolate cake, really easy to make. We're making it by hand. We don't need a mixer. So in a large bowl, I have 1.5 cups, which is 195 grams of all-purpose flour. You may know that. It's plain flour. To that, I'm going to add 1 cup, 200 grams of granulated white sugar. And for the chocolate flavor, whoop, forgot that. For the chocolate flavor, we are using unsweetened cocoa powder. Now you can use the Dutch processed, which I am, or you could use just the natural, regular, unsweetened. I am going to sift my cocoa powder because it does tend to have lumps. I don't know whether I said the amount. 1/4 cup, 25 grams. I'll say it again to be doubly sure. Okay. And then for our leavening, you will need 1 teaspoon, which is 4 grams of baking powder, a half a teaspoon, 2 grams of baking soda, and a quarter of a teaspoon of salt. So that's our dry ingredients. You could sift them together. I'm just going to whisk. Just make sure, you really want to make sure that that baking powder and baking soda is mixed in. Because, you know, otherwise if that baking soda isn't really mixed in, you can sometimes get like little pockets of bitterness, which we don't want. So stir, stir, stir. And then for our wet ingredients, I have 1 cup, 240 milliliters, 240 grams, just of water. I've, you know, warmed it up just a little, so it's just, you know, a little warm. To that, I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup, 80 milliliters, 80 grams of a flavorless oil. So that could be, you know, canola, corn, vegetable, safflower. You could probably even use a very light tasting olive oil. I know some people are going to ask, yes, you could use 1/3 of a cup, an equal amount of melted butter if you prefer. I didn't say, but this is an eggless cake. So we are not adding an egg. What we're going to add is 1 tablespoon, 12 grams. I'm using lemon juice. You could also use a vinegar, either like just a white distilled or even a cider vinegar would be nice. Put that in there. And 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of pure vanilla extract. And I really like chocolate and coffee. I think if you add a little bit of coffee, then it kind of brings out the chocolate flavor. So I'm actually using a half a teaspoon, 2 grams of pure coffee extract. You could, if you don't have coffee extract, you could use add a little bit of like instant or espresso powder or coffee powder, and you just add that into your dry ingredients. And that is essentially our wet. It's kind of, I mean, you kind of look at that and go, it's a little weird, but then you have to think about the fact that this recipe came about during the Second World War. There was a lot of rationing, especially things like butter, eggs, and milk. So that's why you use water, no egg, and then we're using oil. Now I know people will say, well, can I use milk? You could use milk. You could even use coffee instead of water, you know. But we're keeping it pretty true to the original recipe. And if you find once you have this cupcake and you go, wow, I really like the chocolate cupcake, then I did take that batter and make it into a chocolate cake. So you could go to the Joy Baking YouTube channel or our website, and it's called Chocolate Cake, and especially for those people that like eggless. And then I put a chocolate ganache frosting. So good. So just keep that in mind if you really like this cake. You have another recipe you can make. So just mix them together, stir, and we're done. I like easy. So now, we're first going, the chocolate cupcake, I think I said at the beginning, kind of forms like a shell, and then we're going to put the batter in first. So you're going to divide. I'm using an ice cream scoop. So for this amount of batter, I find this is about 1/4 of a cup ice cream scoop, which is 60 milliliters. So that's if you want to do that, or otherwise you can just use a ladle or a couple spoons. Whatever you have in the house. But ice cream scoops make it really nice and easy. So just put that in there. Okay, so that's our last one. There's a little leftover. There you go. So now, slop there. So we have our cream cheese filling. Just as a little note, sometimes, especially if your kitchen is really hot, what you might want to do when you're making your chocolate batter is just because we've already made the cream cheese filling. Just put it into the refrigerator, and that way too it'll thicken it up a bit. Otherwise, you know, sometimes I have found what's happened is if I make my, while I'm making my chocolate cake batter, I have that sitting. I live in a hot climate. It's hot in here. And then this gets pretty thin. And so then it tends to kind of sink into your, when I put it on top, it really sinks in, which is absolutely fine. And don't worry about it if they're not perfect, because you're still going to have that combination of chocolate cake and cheesecake. May not look the same as mine, but that doesn't matter. So now we're going to take 2 tablespoons. I'm actually using, this ice cream scoop is about 2 tablespoons. You could just use it, you know, use a tablespoon and put 2. So just, and then try to put that just in the center, like so. And there we go. Okay, last one. So now mine did spread. One is, my kitchen is really warm. And so if yours do that, that's why. Instead of, like I notice when I do it in the dead of winter, it kind of stays because it's really cold in here, but it's not. So what we're going to do, everyone's oven is a little different. We're going to bake these, I would say somewhere between 22 and 25 minutes. So when you put a toothpick into the chocolate cake part, it'll come out clean and they'll be nice and springy, and your cream cheese filling will be set. Rotate your baking pan front to back about halfway through baking. So 22 to 25 minutes. Okay, so our cupcakes are done. I think they just look so cool, that black and white. So when they're firm to the touch, when I put a toothpick into the cake part, it came out clean. And as you can see, the cream cheese is set. So just put your pan on a wire rack, and I'm just going to let them cool down to room temperature, and then when we come back, we will try one. Okay, so now let's try one. These are good warm, which mine still is, room temperature, or even, you need to store these in the refrigerator because of the cream cheese. They're really good cold as well. Okay, so I'll just cut. Okay, doesn't that look good? Okay, just cut a bit off. Need a little of the cream cheese with the chocolate cake. The combination of the chocolate cake, it's quite light, good chocolate flavor. And then you've got that cream cheese, the tangy sweet cream cheese. Really, the two of them together is perfect. Just, they're so, and you know, if you put these out on, say, a dessert buffet or something, they're so striking, people will go right for them. Like I said, good warm, room temperature, cold. You could freeze them. So you really have to try these. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.